Hi, welcome to another edition of Live from Area 51. I'm Jeff Dixon. I'm joined by Leanne Stayer,
Hello.
Michael Simmons,
Howdy.
and our special guest today is the one that you're here to meet. This is Vickie Martin.
Hello.
She's Executive Director of Christian Help here in Central Florida, and so we're going to take some time today to get to know her and then also get to know all about Christian Help as a ministry and the work that it's doing here. And so Vickie, introduce yourself to us and tell us about yourself and your journey and kind of how you got from who you started as to the executive director of Christian Help. Okay?
Be glad to. Thank you so much for having me. So I will definitely edit it out so you don't get the when I was 4 type of scenario all the way till now.
Yeah,
that's a long story.
We don't usually have that long in the video. Yeah.
But no, I would love to tell you that I was born in Central Illinois, but I've lived in Florida most of my life. So I moved back and forth and around a lot, but always came back to Central Florida as home. And so I graduated from school here early, which propelled me into night school and working right away. I've been volunteering literally since the age of 12, so most of my life is marked by service and work and education. So I'm a real big believer in that. And so fast forward out of that, and I started working, and right away I found myself in administrative and leadership positions. And I would say that I've followed in my mom's footsteps. She'd be glad to hear me say that. Now that I look back, I can see kind of where some of that gifting and that interest came from. But one of my long-term stints was actually in preschool and Christian education. And I wasn't qualified for that when I started. And I mention that because most of my journey has been new positions that I was literally unqualified for.
Perfect. Yeah.
Which is, really, I don't know if you want to brag about that, but I tell that because it's really been neat to see how God has used those opportunities to teach me and grow me a lot, and also to use transferable skills into other things. I think I'm a great poster child for transferable skills, which hopefully is going to be encouraging to somebody that's watching or listening. But anyway, so because I was a real believer in self-growth and education, I began to learn quickly what I needed to about early childhood and education and so forth and school and such. So I did that, and in that 18-year stint, which is as long as it was really amazing how God gave me so much opportunity to learn a lot of things. I began to do public speaking. I handled all the marketing, all the finances, all the hiring, just a lot of things. And so from there, I was also then able to get a job at a church, and so that propelled me into leadership there, something I'd never done before. Sure. But again, I got to expand my skill set and hopefully develop my strengths. I never developed my weaknesses. Nobody ever does. You need to focus on your strengths. You surround yourself with people that know what you don't know, can do what you can't do, kind of thing. But again, the Lord gave me just more opportunity to learn things I didn't know and to grow and to serve in multiple ways. And so I got to take on the education realm of that church. Again, finances, administration, public speaking, those kinds of things were coming along. And from there, I got to get into church planting. Again, another field didn't know anything about, but apparently
nobody does.
Right.
Trust me, we can relate to that.
And we've got books and books to prove it.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, but it's just been a great time of just so many diverse opportunities, getting to meet and work with a lot of different people along the way. And in that whole journey of professional career, I was also serving, as I mentioned, from a very young age. And so Christian Help was one of the places I was serving at. And originally I was a volunteer of many different roles. And then I eventually became a board member, so started serving that way, learning more about the ministry behind the scenes. And then I was asked to be board chair, so I did that for a term. And right about that time, a couple years in, our executive director at the time came to me as board chair and resigned. And so as she did, I went into board chair mode, and that lasted about a minute. And then someone called me and said, you love this ministry and been serving it. Why don't you think about leading it? And again, to God's credit, it was really amazing because, as I told you, I was church planning, and that opportunity was really kind of phasing out. And I knew that, but I didn't know what I was going to do next. But God knew, and He had this waiting in the wings at the right time. And so I said, well, I think I will after I prayed about it. It was really kind of cool to think about that. But I went to the board, And I said, I'd like to be considered for this, but please vet me and everybody else that you feel led to do so, and let's be sure it's the right fit and not just because you know me kind of thing. And so, so that about a little over 5 years ago then put me in the position of the executive director. But what a lot of people like to know out of that story is long before I was a volunteer at Christian Help, how I really became associated with it is about 20 years ago. I was actually a client of Christian Help. And so even though I was working and such, I definitely found myself in a place of need. And I was like our clients today, going around to any agency that would have me to find resources and help. And Christian Help was one of those. And so I got my life together, and I was blessed that fast forward 20 years, I got a chance to actually lead the place. So I've seen it from inside out, outside in, all that.
Well, I use the word, tell us about the journey, because that's it. I mean, that's the journey you've been on. Each season, it sounds like, kind of prepped you for that next season, whatever that was going to be. And
it really does. I mean, and I think that you have to be a person that is willing to embrace the now, but always be looking for the what's to come. And God wants to use that and put that all together, if you'll let him. If you want to just live in it just now and then just put that behind you and then just live in the next now, you can do that. But I find that with the Lord, it's always connected.
I think so. I mean, he tends to move us forward. Well, we're going to find out a lot more about Christian Help, and we're going to find a lot more about you and to keep that conversation going. But what we want to do is give our audience an opportunity to kind of just get a glimpse of what goes on. If you're not familiar with Christian Help, you're going to hear a lot more about it. But let's give you a snapshot of what it looks like in action, and then we're going to come back and talk more if that's okay.
Great, thanks.
Amazing. We've been talking a lot about Christian Help, but for probably a lot of us watching, this may be our first introduction. We don't really know what Christian Help is or the amazing ministry they have. So why don't you unpack that for us a bit?
I would love to.
Great.
And I hear that a lot, that even though we've been in the community for a little over 28 years now, a lot of people will say, I hadn't heard about you, and we're kind of like this well-kept secret. And certainly that's understandable. I mean, nonprofits aren't necessarily known for advertising a lot and having this big marketing budget, you know. And but we're always happy to tell the story, because a lot of times I find that people are in tune with what we do, meaning it aligns with what they're passionate about, so they're glad to be aware. But if not for that reason, if they haven't been a client, there wouldn't be necessarily a reason for them to know about it. But we also like to tell the story because if maybe it doesn't, align with their passion, they may know somebody that needs our services. And so my job is really to always tell the story for both reasons: either to engage people because they're passionate about it and want to be a part of the ministry to help and provide our services to other people, or they just need it for themselves or a friend. So that being said, Leanne, I'm happy to tell you about Christian Help. So what do we actually do over there at 450 Seminole? Because it's this little building that a lot of people drive by. Literally, it's like 3,000 square feet in the front, 2,000 square feet in the back, and what really can be happening out of there. And we've been at that location for 19 years. But again, as I said, we've been in the community for a little over 28. And I'm really proud to say that our mission has never changed in all of that time, and what it was back in 92 and what it is today is the same. And that is literally to prevent homelessness by helping people find jobs while providing for them materially and spiritually. And now to get updated with 2020, what that really means for us is to empower family independence as well. So it's not just making sure that people don't become homeless. Beyond just what we call putting a Band-Aid on it, we want to be the surgery center that says, let's fix this thing, so that beyond, again, just keeping in your home, for example, even if that's a rent or an overnight shelter, whatever that is, again, the prevention, we want to be sure that you're living a life that's got stability in it, that's fulfilling for you, that's got the markers in it that you need to be able to stand on your own, to where eventually you don't need our services. So again, that phrase, empowering family independence, is real important for us, because we really want to be that agency that empowers people, not enables. So to do that, what we really focus on is employment. We really think that that's the vehicle, that's the game changer in everybody's life. that everybody needs an income somehow. And so they need to be working, and we think there's great honor in that. We know that God's word speaks to that. So we want to help people find jobs, whatever that looks like for them, whether they're already unemployed, as unfortunately a lot more people are now than once were, or if they're underemployed, they need an additional job, a better job, whatever that is. And then what else do they need in the meantime? We can't be all things to all people, but a lot of people are going to need groceries. That's just a given. So we've always had an extensive food pantry. Then in addition to helping people find work, being ready to find work, let's feed them and their family in the meantime. And how that really fits into the mission is it helps them take what money they have or little money they've got and be able to reroute it to things like, again, rent or a mortgage or utilities, things that are hard to come by these days, to where food is so available. I always say you should not be spending what money you don't have on food, because we've got it, other people have it, let's feed you, so that, again, you can be sure you're paying your bills in other areas. So our two pillars really are employment and food pantry, but then a third would be in the resource category, like what we don't do, what can we find for you that we know people do, right? Because we really want to be that holistic approach that doesn't just say, well, sorry, you didn't kind of fit into our program, that's all we can do for you. We want to care for the whole person and say, okay, well, what's your story? What do you know? What do you not know? And now here's what we can do, but here's what we know others can do. Because again, we really want to get people on that path to wellness and on being stable themselves. But then the fourth pillar, and certainly not the last or the least important pillar, is going to be our faith. We are the only Christian agency in town that specializes in employment and is a Christian ministry that actually walks alongside people for as long as it takes and shares the gospel with them and prays with them. Not required to receive services, but I've found in my experience most people are going to receive that because they appreciate the sincere gesture of calling out to the Lord, the God that we believe in, to help them and to tell them that He loves them and have a plan for their life, regardless of what their circumstance is. And so that's really important to us. We don't want to miss that, water that down, and we believe really strongly that you can do a lot of good things for people, but if you miss caring for their soul, that's the only thing that's really going to last. What good have you really done? So again, kind of going from that idea of Band-Aid to surgery center, we also believe that that's a real important part of stitching up the wound, is letting people know that there's a bigger picture and plan to all of this, and we want to be that voice of love and care from the Lord as He would use us that way. So that's kind of how it operates over there. And we're able to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Do you find that sometimes makes that harder for you to get funding? Because I know with some of the things we do here, corporations are so afraid to give money to anything labeled Christian, but with that being such a part of what
if you haven't noticed, Christian Help is in the name.
Yes, I know. Like Christmas.
Christian's in the name, Christian Help?
Yeah, go figure that.
But again, does that make some people not want to give you funding? So does that make funding harder to get for you from?
Yes, and how intuitive of you to ask that question. Yes. I mean, it really does, and it's an interesting day that we live in because it hasn't always been that way. And we've even had conversation with some companies and funders that have said, why don't you consider changing your name? And
to help?
To help. I mean, that just would not fit with who we are, and I really feel we would just bring shame upon ourselves to do that. I think it would also send a greater message as to who we really believe our help comes from, And we're stewards of a ministry that we believe God put in the heart of the man, all those years ago, Dick Wilson, our founder, to start. So my job as the executive director and our boards is to only steward the vision. It is not to change the vision or the mission. And so I don't even feel that we really have the right to do that. And even though it's challenging, God still provides. I mean, I don't want to brag in any way because, we're close to the edge all the time. But in 28 years, we've not missed a payroll. I mean, our doors are still open, and we've come close. But God has always made a way, for us to do that. And I also would say that, yes, I'm thankful that companies give to us and grant funders do give. But the lion's share of our funding is still and always has been individuals in the community and the local church. Folks that, again, are aligned with our mission and believe that because we solve community problems that the community should pay for it. It's one of the reasons we don't carry any debt, because we don't feel like we should sign a note for that when again, if we're really of value to the community, if things they care about, they're going to find a way to make sure that we're here and doing, and doing what we do. But sure, it's a challenge, and it's something that I, as the lead, have to really think through a lot, and making sure that our integrity's there, my integrity's there, because you can get a tendency just for a moment just to say, well, maybe we shouldn't talk about that, or what about this, and then fortunately I'm just pulled back, as well as I have accountability. It says, no, we're not going to do this. This is who we are. The other thing I would say, without going too on and on about this, because I can get a little worked up about it, is I think always in those conversations, one, I always respect somebody's view. There's good things that I'm not going to support because we have a different view, and so I do respect that, But I always like to remind the community too that whether the name is Christian or not, it's always important to know what any organization you support believes in. And sometimes it's right out there, and sometimes it's hidden. And I would say that I find that most of the community doesn't have any problem going to one of the hospitals in town whose mission is to be the healing hands of Christ, when they could not have any faith at all, but they don't have any problem getting help from them because they know the good work that they do. So I think sometimes it's an education point of view, and that the line is drawn and people don't even know that they've crossed it in other areas. Right. And so if they maybe would just take a look at, do I really care about who's doing good work, and can we align ourselves together and even put our differences aside and disagree with dignity, and let's get the job done to help people. Some of that falls away, some of it doesn't, but in the end it works out. But I sure appreciate you asking the question.
I love that, though, because for those who really get wrapped up or kind of tied into, it says Christian, therefore I'm rebelling against it or pushing back, you don't want to partner with them anyway.
Right, I mean, right, exactly.
So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I love the job part of this thing. Can you talk to the mechanics of the job piece that you guys bring to families?
Yes, and thank you, because I really just kind of did a 30,000-foot view of that earlier, and didn't really kind of tell you how does that get done, right? So again, back to that empowerment philosophy, I always like to tell clients and our supporters to understand that we're not a staffing agency. No one's going to come into our place, and we're not just going to solve their problems and be like, oh, we have jobs waiting for you, because we feel real strongly, again, that we want to be the teachers of people, of how to do this yourself. We want to keep their dignity intact, or bring some along if they don't have any. Sometimes we get to people at a real low spot. But we want to let them know that we believe in them and that they have value, and that we want to partner with them. We don't want to pull them along and try and put our desires for them on them, or try and make them do something in a way that we would do it. So we want to teach them what are the current trends right now in industry, in job seeking, with HR professionals. What does a great resume look like? How do you search for jobs online? What does it look like to interview well? What does it look like to follow up today in a digital age? I mean, just a lot of things there. What's it look like to interview online? Now maybe more than ever, those types of things. But again, where are the jobs? How do you get them? And then how do you keep them? Like, let's help you, let's teach you. So we really specialize in doing that one-on-one, because everybody's an individual, and we really need to do that. There are some classes we teach around town that we can do, like at what I call just a beginning level, and then again still invite some folks in to avail themselves of our services one-on-one. Beyond that, not to sound hypocritical, but that is, I think, the real important piece in the way I described it. But I will say that we do have a direct connect, because we have job fairs that happen every other month. So there is that way to actually introduce people to employers. But again, they're not going to those job fairs getting jobs because we said so. So the philosophy still in play is that you can go to our job fairs whether you come to us as a one-on-one client or not. But we certainly send our clients to our own job fairs, of course, and we think they're the best prepared people to go to those job fairs, because we've worked with them on interview skills and elevator, speeches and resumes and that type of thing. But that really is the work that we do, is let's get people ready to find their own job, and if they don't know where they are, let me teach you where they're at and then how to get it and keep it.
I love that part.
Thanks.
Well, and one of the reasons we're excited about Christian Help, and we believe in what you're doing so much, is because of the integrity piece of it. When you mentioned that earlier, because again, people need help, and they are going to go to a number of different places. But when they come to you, one of the things that we've seen in action is the fact that you go out of your way to make them feel like they have worth and there's value there, and you're giving to them skills in the job situation. I mean, so it's not. It's not the proverbial handout, right. But it really is not just. It's not just a hand up. I don't think. I mean, I think you're really just kind of pulling them up and helping them stand and kind of give them stability.
Right.
And I think that's a big piece of what you guys do.
Thank
and we've
you.
seen that time and time again with folks.
Yeah, and and I think both types of agencies are needed, as I've alluded to. I mean, there's going to be people that, they need something today, and I'm glad that there's agencies that they can go to. We're really not going to be that agency. I mean, we've got food for you initially, but again, really to your point, we're really looking for people that want to change their situation, that does want their life transformed, and that they want to have a part in that. And that way, then again, what we believe we do is a lot more permanent fix. And I think with what we've seen, in the last few years in particular in our culture and in society is a lot of people have compassion. Most people have compassion on their fellow man. But I will tell you, there's an awful lot of talk about not repetitive services for the same people. And a lot of people have what they call donor fatigue, and they're worn out of being asked to give to the same things for the same people. And there's a perception of that too, that it is the same people or the same type of people, right? And so what I often say is, unfortunately, we will probably always be needed, but we don't have to be serving the same people. And so what I want the community to know is that, yes, there are some people that get a job right away through our help. It's a month long, maybe it's 6 months. Again, it can vary, but that they can know our end goal is to get people up and out on their own. And those are the type of people that we really look to work with and successfully work with, so that even if they give again next month to support our work, chances are that giving empowers us to help somebody else. It's not the same person again and again that just kind of has adapted this as a lifestyle.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and you want to break a cycle, right?
Yeah,
If you
right,
can,
we really
step
are.
out
And we really believe that that's, what contributes to healthy communities, right? As we create consumers and taxpayers, healthier citizens, we know that emergency room visits go down. We know that crime goes down. I mean, everybody wins in that equation. So we really want to be of help to the region by bigger picture thinking, not just in this immediate, not really caring about the domino effect of what's, behind that trail. So.
Well, see, and now we've heard a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so there, yeah.
So this is a great time, now that you've heard a little bit more about it, to take another look at it and see some more of the stuff that goes on a daily basis at Christian Help. And we'll come back and talk more as soon as we're done looking.
Great.
So as we record today, we're kind of in that transitional period with COVID-19, the coronavirus and all that kind of stuff. And we're waiting to figure out what the governor's going to allow us to do. But clearly, this last 6 or 8 weeks have been incredibly impactful in your world. So talk to me about what COVID's looked like for you.
Yeah, I would say that we were probably like anyone in the fact that we were all trying to figure out how serious it was. And then we got to that place of realizing it was serious. And then we got a little freaked out and fearful, But I'm so proud of our team, both paid and non-paid staff, is that we all got together and we decided that saying that we were an essential service and wanting to stay open and continue to serve people was not a marketing ploy. It was what we were called to do, that the need in the community had not changed. If anything, it had grown. And so it just didn't seem like the time to say, nah, not really interested or going to back away from this right now. And yet we were a little nervous because at first, because of the way everyone was responding, and I get it, but we were saying, hey, we want to help, and yet we couldn't get the cleaning supplies, we couldn't get the masks, we couldn't get the gloves. And meanwhile, I'm having meetings with my team, and they're saying, well, look, we're with you, but I'm a little concerned here. And honestly, I can only tell you that is when God just showed up and affirmed what we were supposed to, I'm getting emotional, but we were supposed to stay open because we prayed, and out of the blue as it would seem, but spiritually I know it's not out of the blue, I began to get calls and donations of gloves and masks and money and paper towels and all these kinds of things that just 24 hours before we had not had. And so it was really neat to see, what? The community, one, cares. God sees us, and it's going to be okay, and we're going to stay open. So that helped, of course, and then it was a matter of, all right, now actually what's the how? And so where do we put the tape? How do we keep our pantry open, keep people safe, stay a part of not only getting food in, but sorting and stocking and then distributing it out. We moved clients from an inside service to outdoor service. Our job seeking services went from being delivered in-house to now virtually online. Our job fairs are being suspended at this time, but we're going to just pivot and we're going to do those another way. And, we've been challenged to figure it out. And some of it's been hard, but all of it's been good because it's not only brought us closer, but it has made us think critically and creatively. And it has made us look at our will and our why and figure out, are we serious about it? How are we going to do it? Is God going to provide? Does the community care? Is there a need? And of course, yes, the answer is yes. And I don't know, it's just, I would say that there's more good days of feeling a little bit of victory, not in a braggadocious way, but just like we can do this and make it through, than there has been defeat. And it's caused us to say, maybe it is time to jettison that. This we wanted to do all along, but we never took the time to actually look at it. And so now we're doing that, So yeah, we're still going.
With the we have an explosion of unemployment now.
Yeah.
In Florida.
We went from people saying, are you guys really that busy over there, to, now we're the topic of discussion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't laugh like that's funny. Yeah. It's just, literally overnight.
Everything changed.
Oh.
Everything changed.
Everything
Who could have
changed.
seen that coming? We don't wish for that from a marketing point of view. We always felt relevant, of course. But now it's like, yeah, this is pretty serious again.
What are you anticipating as this comeback in the state of Florida starts? We all want to be eternal optimists here and think it all goes back to normal. We know it's not. We know it's going to be a new normal.
Right.
What do you think it's going to look like for you with folks now that are coming off of losing jobs and they even can't get unemployment now? What happens?
But so many things right now are frustrating for so many. And it is going to require change. Some people would say, well, people don't change. Then I'd say, okay, then it's going to require you to adapt, to be flexible. I think some of the things that will always stay, that we've always needed to do and we'll have to do more than ever, is, again, come alongside people and be their advocate, their cheerleader, and their coach. Be their encourager. We all need that anyway, and some people need it more than others. It's so easy to look at somebody and say, why don't you just do this, or why don't you just figure this out? Some people aren't naturally wired that way or as gifted, and so we get that privilege to come alongside saying, let's help you think this through. Let's encourage you. Let's give you some creative ways. Let's teach you about yourself and your value and how to repurpose what you were made to do, how to have transferable skills, those types of things, because we strongly believe that there is a plan for everyone. There's something for everyone to do, to contribute to, and that those that want and need to work can and should. Doesn't mean it won't be hard, but we're just going to have to help people do that. And for some people, it's going to be as basic, if you will, as figuring out how to do that online, how to use certain platforms and apps that are out there that they've never had to do before, how to tell their story differently and better than they've ever had to before, how to literally muster up the courage and the tenacity every day to keep looking, and to not get angry and frustrated with the system. I get that, but I always tell folks there's a place for that, but at some point you need to put that down, because it is the way it is. Let's get to it, right? Okay, it's time to quit cursing the digital age and let's start using it for our good, and figure that out. I think there will be hybrids of a lot of things. I think there will be some balance. I think we will return to community engagement and interaction in some way, but I think some of the things when it comes to technology and digital platforms and such will not go away. Yeah. And so the people that win, in a sense of finding what they need, and then I would say what they need, not what I want for them, but what they need, have always been and will always be the people that do not lose hope and heart and the will. And those that stay in it and surround themselves with community that will help them succeed in their efforts and their desires, those are the people that will find a way to be okay. They always have and they always will. We want that to be in the by and large of the numbers, but yeah, it's going to be unusual days like we've never seen before. You know, because we saw, Christian Help was around when the recession was there back in 2008 in those years. We've seen what it's like to have hundreds and thousands of job seekers come into our doors. But again, that was a different time because of how we helped those job seekers. I think from a numerical point of view, it won't necessarily be a day that we're not used to serving the masses. But again, just how we serve them and how they need to be served is what's going to change. But we're already, burning the midnight oil, figuring it out, adapting on what we need to do in the way of services, and like anybody else is, and being ready, because we want to be here for another 28 years, and we think God's called us to do that. And by golly, and by God's grace and the community's generosity, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I believe that as well. Well, I mean, you've heard about it. Christian Help offering hope to folks who desperately need that. Let's take another look and give you another glimpse of what goes on, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more. We've been looking at some of the stuff that happens at Christian Help.
Yeah.
Give us a snapshot, if you can, of just tell us what it's like right now for folks in Central Florida.
Well, Christian Help has always served anyone and everyone needing help and willing and able to work. And so that makes a difference because we see people literally from all 5 surrounding counties, primarily Orange and Seminole, but we'll have people drive to us from Osceola or Lake or other counties. And we don't just serve people that are already homeless or in poverty, even though of course that's a lot of folks. We don't serve people that are just unemployed. I mentioned that earlier. We serve people that are just right on the edge. Again, whatever their story is. I mean, I always like to champion their cause because they're smart enough to know that they need help. There's no shame in that. They're the smart ones that have figured out,
Right.
you know something I don't know, I'm going to come to you for help, type of thing. But, recently, of course, those numbers have just blown up because we went from still serving a lot of people because in a community the size of ours, when you have low unemployment, you still have tens of thousands unemployed. And then underemployment was already at about 10%. So there's already a lot of need, considering that, Central Florida is, yes, a great job creator, but there's a whole nother discussion about the wages we pay versus the cost of living and all of that. And so now with what's happening is those numbers, as I just said, have just blown up. And so we went from helping a few every day in job seeking to maybe 25 to 50 families a day needing food to now 100 families a day needing food. And then the job piece, we're still really calculating the numbers, and that's still continuing to grow. Because what we're seeing is there's a real urgent need for people just in survival mode. And some of them don't know that we can help them even before a lot of opportunity comes back. Kind of our message to the public right now is don't wait until a lot of companies are hiring. This is your time to be working on you, to be ready. Because there are some jobs, of course, some companies are still hiring, but granted, they're not for everyone, and they're not going to meet every need. And so some people, are having to so-called wait until they can get the job that they need that is coming back. And we do believe there'll be some jobs coming back and new jobs certainly created. Sure. But again, we've got services that we can offer to help people. So I think those numbers are going to continue to increase for us as the word gets out that's what we do. And it's just going to have to, because what's going to happen now is as companies start to hire again, there will be folks that they lost that went elsewhere. There will be what I'm going to call their former employees that'll be available back to them. But now their candidate pool is going to open up. But what that's also going to mean is the competition now is going to be higher, which it hasn't been in a long time. Sure. So again, for the job seeker, this is the time to hone your skills, to reach out to agencies like ours to say, tell me what I need to level up, to be ready, to be a good candidate to consider, so I don't have to settle. And from a numeric point of view, before COVID, there was already 1,100 to 1,500 people a week moving into Central Florida. And so we have no reason to think that those numbers aren't going to change, because the things that attracted people to our region are still going to be in play. And we think that'll be there. But back to the food piece, because I think that really, again, makes the point, is now we're seeing like 100 people a day show up just for the basics to get by. And for us, we get to kind of introduce our other services to them. It's one way to reach the population. But to multiply that out, so think of one person representing a family, and we have 100 of those in a line, and then they each usually have 2, 3, 4 people or more in a household. So when we give out boxes of food to a family, or a representative, shall I say, we're actually feeding 2, 3, 4, 500 people a day out of our pantry. And at the end of that, long before COVID, we were already helping about 7,000 people a year get a job. We were already feeding about 10,000 family members, and upwards of 50,000, 10,000 families, 50,000 family members. So we were busy then and busy now and going to be busy.
I think you are. I think so.
I don't know if that's what you asked.
No, that's
that
it. No, you did good.
Just to kind of give you an idea of the impact. And, when I say that, there is this point of sadness to me, but I smile because I think it is really such a blessing and a privilege to be used by God to help people, and to know that, one, we live in a community in Central Florida that is very benevolent, that is very philanthropic, in their efforts and their giving, and that is not to be assumed that that's like that everywhere. We also live in a community where a lot of nonprofits do work together, and there's a lot of collaboration amongst counties. We have a lot of local agencies and governments that work together, and I can just tell you again that it is not that way everywhere. So it's tough to be in need, but if you are or know someone that is, you really are also in a good place to get services, because there's so many people that want to help you.
And those numbers are big, but they represent individuals.
Yeah.
Right.
Every family, every person. I mean, and it's a tough place to be.
Yeah.
So tell me a story.
Tell you a story. The story that recently comes to mind is pulling up to work just in the last week prior to us opening, and seeing a woman in our dumpster looking for food, because she didn't understand what we did, and that we were about to open within the hour, and that we offer the 4th largest food pantry services in the region. And I tell you that, and it moves me to tears, because I haven't been in that place in a really long time. And to see that level of need and desperation, it breaks my heart. And I want to just run to somebody like that and say, you don't need to do that. And yet I wondered, for somebody like her, not how she got there or why she thought that was necessary, but it made me sad that she didn't know that what we did or what else is out there for her in the community, And I say that because I really want the community to know that that's how desperate people are. And we should not look upon someone like that and assume that they're not smart, or assume that they're lazy, or a lot of things about them. We should assume nothing more than what we see at face value, which is she was desperate and hungry and didn't know what she doesn't know, And so it is our privilege to be able to open up our doors and say, we can help you. But again, back to what we talked about earlier, let's not help you just for today. I mean, bread is good for the soul today, absolutely, right? Water is good for the thirst. But there's something more substantive than that. We want to help you be able to get your own groceries, to figure out a way to provide for yourself going forward. Even if it takes a while to do that, we'll be here for you. But then also, I would love to tell you about, the God that loves me and loves you, and that has come to give you more than just food for the body, So that to me just really touches me lately. But at the other end of the spectrum, we have people that are not that desperate, but are also saying, if you don't help me, I'm going to be her, because I am on the edge. I really don't have that much income. I'm losing what I had. I was already not able to provide this or that. And now, now I've not got my stimulus check, or now I've not gotten unemployment, or I didn't qualify for the PPP loan and all of that. I mean, I had somebody call me the other day that they literally, their business was shut down because they're an independent contractor. They have gotten nothing yet. and it's been 4 weeks at least, you know? And I think, my gosh, how do they make it? Most people don't have that kind of savings. Right. Most people are living, we know 50% or more of our community before COVID was already $400 away from crisis. So you take something like this, they're living paycheck to paycheck anyway, right? But then again, you get that executive, and we have a lot of those. We have folks that have education, experience. We have people that are older. They've worked in the same place for years. Or you can take a theme park employee. I mean, who wouldn't have thought that their future was not secure, right? I mean, everything is just upside down on its head. And so we are seeing people that would have thought, I'd never be in this position. Can you please help me? And they are scared. And, you know, and rightfully so, in the sense that I would say, just from a life principle, if you think that you can go this life alone, you should be scared, because too much is thrown at us that we cannot control. There's very little we can influence, and so if you're living in isolation or think that you can do it all on your own, that's a scary place to be, you know. So yeah, interesting days, but we're helping all walks of life, folks.
Very cool.
Well, it's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Our folks that are watching, well, I mean, there's a question that's always looming out there. What can I do?
Yeah.
What do you need me to do to help?
Give money.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I'm sure that's on the list. I have a feeling. But,
I'll tell you, give money.
but how can folks? I mean, how can folks help? What are the ways that they can connect?
Right. First, I would say pray. Always pray. That is so powerful. You know, God's word says that the prayers of the righteous avail much. And so if you know Him and have a personal relationship with Him, we would be honored to have you go to Him on our behalf. Because as I've already testified to, I mean, my life is certainly, you know, an answer to my mama's prayers for sure, as far as God has redeemed and transformed my life. I didn't cover that, but I've not always been a Christ follower. This is not a blessed person as far as, silver spoon, all that type of stuff. I've struggled. I was a client. I told you that. So prayer is part of my redemptive story. But I've also seen God just show up for Christian help because people have been praying. So that's powerful. We don't discount that. In some very tangible ways, because people want to know, like, wow, like you said, how can I help? Like, I want to make a difference. And maybe I can't work at Christian Help, but can I know that what I'm doing is part of helping people? And I would say yes. If you give money to Christian Help, and Leanne, thank you for that. If you give money to Christian Help, one, know that your dollars are multiplied. You or I as individuals absolutely can give money to any one person, and can it make a difference? Of course, in the moment or long term, sure. But if I give to an agency that I trust and I understand what they're doing with it, and the effects of that money's multiplied, because your dollars are not given out in services proportionately. They're put into a bucket of funds that fulfills an operational budget that avails all of our services to anyone and everyone. Yeah. So giving really is very effective, and people can know that. And some people can't give cash right now. They're not in a liquid state to where that they can do that. And so there's what we call non-liquid gifts that people can give. There's a lot of asset giving right now. Some people do have stocks. Some people do have property. Some people do have equipment and things that they can donate that can certainly help the ministry. So that's great if that's the way that folks would also like to support. In-kind gifts, we can also take those because of our food pantry is just ramped up so much. There's a great need for non-perishables. We're not taking perishables right now because we do get those through the local grocery stores and Second Harvest Connection, but things that like canned goods and toiletries and box goods and stuff like that, they can give that. It makes a big difference. We appreciate it very much. And right now we are limited with the volunteers that can serve, but that's going to come back.
It will.
And so again, the need's going to be there. This is not, as I think I've already said, it's not going to go away overnight. So if you feel like I can't help today and I can't give my time today, are you going to need me next month? You're going to need me 2 months from now? Yeah, absolutely. We believe that we're going to feel the effects of this for a long time. Just like the way that we check in at the airport right now, we are still living out the effects of 9/11.
Correct.
I believe there's going to be protocols we put in place, behaviors that we'll be living out for a long time. So there's going to be a day, though, that we'll be able to bring more volunteers back. So if you've got some time on your hands and want to serve, We would love to have folks contact us online. It's so easy to do that. Let us know your interest, your passion, your availability, and get you plugged in. Some people really love to be the boots on the ground, and and we appreciate that. Would absolutely be a way for them to way to serve. And we've got lots of ways that they can serve. So yeah, I think that's kind of a good menu of offering. That if you're passionate about people working, if that's your heartbeat, if you're passionate about people being connected to faith, if you're passionate about people being fed, including children, then I would say that we are the agency for you. And for anybody that's listening and watching this, if that doesn't resonate with you, please know that, not that you have to care what I think, but I'm good with that. I just want people to be engaged somewhere in the community. That would be the ultimate message, is it is so fulfilling and rewarding, because you always get a blessing when you are part of the solution, and you feel that I really am doing something. And you can do it from the couch. How great is that now? So so thanks for asking the question and the questions. They've been great. Appreciate it.
I want to say to our folks that are watching too. I mean, there is something about what Christian Help does that goes beyond even how you can put it in words. I mean, you've heard the stories, you've seen the images at this point. But I'm one of those guys, probably like a lot of you. I care very much about what I do with the resources that God gives me. And we always teach here that you're supposed to manage them wisely. I want you to know that you don't even have to think twice about the fact that if God just lays on your heart to take and bring a gift and offer it and give it to Christian Help, that somehow that's not going to be used or it's going to be wasted. It's not. And I got to believe that there's some folks that are watching this too that really need to look at that. We've talked about being generous so many times here at the Church at 434, and we've talked about how generosity is a lifestyle, and maybe Christian Help needs to hit your radar. And maybe that's where part of that generosity and that giving spirit needs to be let loose and set free, because they will put it to good use, and it makes our community a better place. You bless others, we're blessed to bless, and by doing it, you are actually building the kingdom of God in a way that's just very real and very powerful and very tangible. And then hopefully it's easier because you met Vickie, and you've heard her stories, and you know what's going on there, and that's the whole point of this. And so at the Church of 434, we're partners in ministry with Christian Help, and we say that with a great deal of just excitement, and we say it unashamedly. We're thrilled to death to kind of be in lockstep and be a part of very small part of what's going on in our community. But we value what you do, and so thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You survived Area 51. Crazy, right?
Who knew?
Who knew? Right? Is it real? Is it real? It's real.
It is real, and thank you for that. And I would just say that y'all are not a small part. I so appreciate what you stand for in this community, and the work that you do, and the way that you do come alongside us. And it is a lot more too than just monetary. That just your encouragement, your relational engagement with us, caring about us and how we're doing, and it's just good. And I hope your folks know how special you are here as a team, that not every church operates this way, and not all of our church partners do.
Well,
so we love you guys.
Most of us are okay.
Well, we left. Never mind.
We love you guys.
We love
well.
you guys, and it's good. So thank you for what you do. Appreciate it.
Well, our pleasure. And that's going to wrap up this edition. So, live from Area 51, part of the Church 434 in motion. I remember what we're doing here. And we look forward to joining you again next time here for our next edition. Thanks a lot.